D here with Girl Quest Books. If you don't know who I am, I do have an intro video. It covers my interest in reading, what got me into reading, what genres I like to read. Today's a very specific one. It deals with a franchise that is near and dear to my heart. As you can see, I have two full bookshelves behind me. The canon shelf, I've read everything. The Legends Expanded Universe, I've read some. I've been working on building up a complete collection so that hopefully one day I can do a full read through. That being said, I've seen at San Diego Comic-Con, there's been some news as far as images about some of the new stuff coming out, like Maul Shadow Lord. There was a really very high quality image of Maul. Look at Ezra and Ahsoka Season 2. And if you watch my intro video, Star Wars is very prevalent in all of this for me. So I thought, I was just looking at my bookshelf and I thought, why not pick 3 standalone Star Wars books from Legends that you can read one and done that I think are good and cover 3 different areas and 3 different eras of the Star Wars universe. So I'm going to start off, I'm going to do this based off of prequel, basically prequel, original, and sequel era. So before episode 1, if you watched episode 3 in Revenge of the Sith, Emperor Palpatine asks Anakin if you've ever heard the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise. My first recommendation is the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise. So Plagueis is, it's almost more of an origin of Sidious with the story of just what Plagueis was all about. So it begins, you've got Darth Tenebris, Plagueis' master, and his end, and what Plagueis is doing, and you get to see how Palpatine rises from his apprentice to, well, how it all plays out. You've got a little bit of Maul in there, and it covers a lot for one book. And what I mean by that is, it's not just the time span, but if I'm not mistaken, there is content within here that it's juggling that comes from other comics and other books that are happening at this time. Because when I listened to the book more than I read it, and I'm glad that I did because I love listening to Star Wars books because they tend to include the score and sound effects, and that's just awesome. So I got the feeling that there was a lot of stuff that was connected to other pieces of literature, and honestly, I think I read the comics that it was referring to, but even if you didn't, it's not that hard to keep track of. It's not that hard to understand. It's really well written, and there's a reason why so many people like this book, and so many people are, yearn for Plagueis to be brought to, the visual Star Wars medium beyond this. The next one is immediately following episode 3, and you might already have a clue, just based off that we're going with Kenobi. And I hate that I waited so long to read this book. I cannot believe I waited it just 2 years ago to read this, when for years I'd heard how good it was. So Kenobi is, it's obviously it's about Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it's set not long after Revenge of the Sith. He's, the ramifications of that, him settling his life and transitioning, into this Jedi in exile, and his mission in watching over Luke and keeping a low profile. And another thing I really like about this is the cover looks cool, and it's very clear that this is on Tatooine. And another thing that comes along with Tatooine is the Western feel. So this is a very good, one and done Obi-Wan Kenobi Western in Star Wars. The last one, it's technically a standalone, but not. And that is iJedi, and it takes place during the events of the Jedi Academy trilogy, which is its own thing. And the reason being is because Corran Horn has been a member of Rogue Squadron. His wife is kidnapped. He actually doesn't show up in those books. So this is all about him. The events of that book take place during this, but that is not the point of his time in this book. So his wife is captured. He goes to Luke's academy to learn about his Jedi heritage, learn about using the Force so that he can get to his wife and save her. And Cornhorn is very interesting because his Force abilities are different from what you see in the movies. He has his own strengths and his own weaknesses, and it's really cool how that's addressed in these books. And I read this book before I read the Jedi Academy trilogy. So this was my intro into that right after reading the Thrawn trilogy. So I went from the Thrawn trilogy into this, and that was what I read first. I actually would suggest reading this before that because to me, it's like you go watch a movie like Superman, for example. I just went to watch Superman. It's a small snippet into Superman's life and his story. What can I do to get more Superman? I read Superman comics. So if you read I, Jedi, and you already kind of know that, oh yeah, like if you know the basics of Luke and Mara and the Thrawn trilogy, or you already read the Thrawn trilogy, I actually would suggest you to read this first, because if you like what happens in the Jedi Academy story, you can read that for an even bigger exploration into those characters and the events. So these are 3 books that are standalone that I just grabbed off my shelf. This isn't like a ranking from 1 to 3. This is just 3 different eras, 3 books that in the Legends era that you could just get a good quick snapshot of the characters, the events, the stories, and one and done, and not being committed to multiple books. So those are some good ones that I think would be good for you if you were looking for a quick Star Wars reading. So thanks for hanging.